Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Faith in Politics with me, Eileen. Good evening, good evening, good evening. I'm so excited to be here, to be live with each and every one of you. Today is Thursday, November 20th. And of course, I always think we have a great show, but I hope you will too. We're going to jump into it soon and let everybody kind of know that I'm on live. So I am currently live on Podbean, so you can always find me there every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. I am live. So I'm live on Podbean, which is my kind of home app. I'm also live on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. So you can always find me there. But if you ever miss a show, do not fret because we are 100% everywhere that you podcast and everywhere that you want to be. So I'm going to name them for you because I cannot remember them all myself. So you can listen anytime if you've missed a show at Apple, YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Music, Podbean, Player FM, Listen Notes, Pod Chaser, and Boomplay. So if you podcast on Apple, if you podcast on iHeart, Spotify, you can find me right there, Faith in Politics. It's a little purple sign, as you've seen kind of everywhere else that matches the book. And so it'll be the purple kind of visual that matches the book everywhere. So you can find us again at Apple, YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Music, Podbean, Player FM, Listen Notes, Podchaser, and Boomplay. So this is episode 37. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm excited to have everybody here and everybody who jumps on throughout the podcast. I believe we're going to have a good show. And so let me just break down what we're going to get into so you know. So if you pop on and pop back on, or if you want to listen later, you can know what we're going to talk about. Well, we're gonna give you an update on the spiritual takeover. I really just started it, and the Lord kind of pushed me into different directions, and it's grown. So I'm really kind of excited to share that with you. The budget deficit. I'm going to give you an update on that because there was a meeting yesterday in City Council, and the City Council approved something. So we need to know what it is and how that works. I'm going to give you the breakdown of that. Of course, we're going to have a Civics 101 segment, and so I want to tell you how New Orleans was created. So you'll find that out in our Civics 101 segment. And then, of course, we have New Orleans trivia. And then I'm going to leave a little time at the end for any residents' questions. So if you have a question or if you need something answered, please let me know, and we'll try to get through those towards the end of the show with whatever time we have left. And if there isn't any extra time, what I'll do is I'll take your question and I'll probably make it into a post, because if you have the question, I'm sure someone else does. That's what I've really found as I've traveled New Orleans through just the recall, the election, and just kind of growing up in New Orleans. We need to share the information that we have so we can all be a stronger New Orleans. So let me tell you a little bit about the book that I wrote and kind of how all of this started. So I don't know if y'all know, but some of you do. I was in a shooting last year. And so clearly I was at home after it, and I was like, okay, God, what do you want me to do? And he said, write a book. So I was inspired to write a book by the Lord. And it's crazy because, well, it's not crazy. I had already done the research because I know he had put it on my heart, but I had not walked the walk. And so I walked the walk after that because, I'm like, you do what you're told, right? And so I wrote the book, Faith in Politics. It is a guide for each and every resident. It is to empower you. It is to give you the information that we all need so we can be a stronger New Orleans. So the books are on sale. You can get them from me because we're having meetups throughout the city, either one-on-ones or kind of group sessions. So you can pre-order them now because I have, I'm putting out an order soon to come about in a week. So if you'd like to be in that group, you can pre-order with me now. There's $15 at Cash App. $15 at Cash App, Faith in Politics. I had so many people reach out and say that they wanted to buy it directly to me, so I just made it easy like that. So Cash App, Faith in Politics, and it looks the same. It's purple like this. If you put you do $15, or if you actually wanted to sponsor a giveaway, you can do that too with a donation. And so I will kind of DM you with the information, and then we'll meet up. If you do not want to do that, you can always order it from Amazon. The book is right there on Amazon as well. And if you cannot afford the book, I'm literally trying to give the information away for free to make sure everyone understands the rules of the game, because if we don't know, then how can we referee? So you can get that link in my bio. You just hit free PDF, and then you can have the whole book. So please go and do that and share the information with your family and friends. If you want to reach out to me, my email is faithinpolitics504 at gmail.com, faithinpolitics504 at gmail.com. And you can give me a call at 504-434 2827. That is 504-434-2827. That is Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. I'm open to partnerships and things of that nature because foundationally, what all of this is Carter Business Development. That is my firm. And I do outreach, I do business development, strategic development, and things of that nature for small businesses, nonprofits, and systems, all the way up to governmental agencies. As you see, I did that for the city of New Orleans for 3 years. So I'd love to work with you if you're interested in growth. Let me know what you have ideas, and let's make magic happen. So with all of that being the case, let's jump right in to what we have going on, because the name of the show today is Foundation. And why I was like, Lord, what are we going to talk about today? And it's crazy because I've had a lot of people supporting me as I walked, and it really just started with me walking my block because there were a lot of car break-ins in our area. So I was like, God, what is the deal? And he's like, you take care of it. Like, I left you there with Dominion. Like, what are you gonna do about it? So I was like, okay, bet. So I was like, I started walking my block and taking authority. And after that, we haven't had any more car break-ins or anything like that in our neighborhood. So I was like, okay, well, does this work, for larger areas? And God's like, of course. What are you gonna do about it? So here we are. And I was having this conversation with a resident, and she was like, you remind me of when they walked the wall of Jericho. And I went and I read the story in the Bible, and I was like, you know what? Yeah. And so today was the 7th day. So it just kind of fell on my heart. And so as I've been doing this, I was praying. I was like, God, how do you want this to happen? Well, I would love to grow. I mean, we can start with individually. You can just walk your own block, but I want to grow into meetups. I am talking to organizations to do some maybe block parties throughout, because I said that on the campaign trail that New Orleans wasn't, we lost our unity. So this is a way that I can kind of do that. Just, you don't have to be elected to do stuff. So I was thinking about maybe quarterly doing some type of block party for the communities who are like hard hit with crime, where, we gave, had some organizations come with different resources. And then there was a group of us that actually walked the neighborhood and prayed for the neighborhood. And so I'm looking to do that. So if you're interested in anything like that, let me know, because you know how they put up yard signs for everything else. Well, I was like, well, why can't we put yard signs to take our city back? So I want to work and maybe get some businesses to maybe sponsor some yard signs so we can take back the city of New Orleans spiritually, because we live in a spiritual world. We can ignore it if we want, and we will get beaten up each and every day. So it's time for us to stand in our authority and walk the walk, literally step by step. So I ask each and every one of you to walk with me. If you want to do your neighborhood and, video it and tag me, I'd love to share it and things like that. If not, just do it yourself and watch your neighborhood change, because I know it works, because I literally did it in my own neighborhood. So I wouldn't suggest anything, I know it didn't work, but plus God doesn't lie. So we are doing a spiritual takeover to take back the block challenge in New Orleans. And I encourage each and every one of you to take back your individual block, because we will see a change in New Orleans when we all do it together. So that is very important. And if you want to partner with me as well, you can just, come in my DMs, or again, email me at faithandpolitics504@gmail.com. That is faithandpolitics504@gmail.com. So please, please, please do that, because we need to take back the city. So one day, I already know I'm going to go walk the block around City Hall, because we need to take City Hall back too. We need to knock out any demons they got going over there, because New Orleans is up. It is up. And so I know I say this often, but it is very important to understand where New Orleans is in the process. New Orleans is in the cleanse. We had judgment. This is cleanse. We will have revival. How long we are in this season determines how the residents act. And so y'all know, just give you an example. Y'all know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, and we can love our city as much as we want, because nobody can talk about us but us, right? But there, you look around, and there's a lot of things when you read about that city that are actually happening in our city. And so it's like, wait, we need to get our mind right. And the Lord is calling us into repentance. And that is telling him we are sorry and turning away from our sin. That's exactly what it is. Does he expect you to be perfect about it? No, he expects you to try. He will hold your hand and walk us through it. And that's each and every one of us. So this is like from our families all the way up to, governmental systems. And the crazy part is, people think elected officials, are bypassed by this. No, there is no one higher than the Lord. He's the creator of each and every one of us. So no one gets an out on this. Your favorite influencers, no one it can run from Jesus. So you can't, like, it's not happening. And so many people are like, Jesus is love. And yes, he is love. But Jesus came the first time to do the hugging. That was the first time. His second coming is with a sword. So everybody's like, oh, this confusion. No, he's separating us. He's like, choose your team. Are you on Team Jesus or Team Satan? There's only two teams. So if you're not Team Jesus, by default, you're choosing the other one. And so no decision is a decision. So I just want to lay that on your hearts so you know what it is, because, I'm not going to be the one that didn't tell you. I'm going to let you know. And hopefully, if you need it, this convicts your heart and it makes you think about it, and it makes you be like, Lord, help me. Because really, that's really all it takes. Lord, help me yield to him, and let him walk out your path for you, because we can't do it alone. We must yield. I was having this conversation with someone yesterday. The Lord led me to go work with this organization yesterday, and I had this wonderful conversation with this young believer, and she was having, just a lot of incoming in her walk. But we do have a lot of witchcraft in New Orleans, and that's what people really need to understand. They think it's a joke. It's not a joke. People are dating demons, like legit. They are dating witches. They are dating warlocks and wondering why everything in their life is falling apart around them. Well, because you're dating a demon. Like, you're dating a demon, and then you're getting sucked in like witchcraft. You're like, why can't I let go? Well, because they've been doing spells and all that kind of stuff on you. But guess who beats them? Jesus Christ. Like, period. When my spiritual gifts started popping, I didn't know what to do. I'm from New Orleans, so I was looking into all the things that we thought were, what you do, the crystals, the cards, this, trying to figure it out, because I never knew the supernatural was Jesus. Y'all, Jesus is supernatural. That's what, like, they're like, oh, he's supernatural. So the same way y'all go to these candle stores and these palm readers and things like that, that's one side of it. The other side of the supernatural is Jesus, angels, the Lord system. Only thing the devil does is mimic God's system and twist it so we look for it in the wrong ways. So episode 37 is about foundation. And so we need a better foundation in the word to understand. So if you want a supernatural experience, if you want to turn your life around, it is 100% Jesus. That is the only supernatural that you need, because we have opened a lot of doors in New Orleans that we don't know how to close. And people think they do these rituals and things and they're only affecting them. No, you are now affecting yourself and like 3 and 4 generations, possibly. Like, you are, and your city. You're opening portals, you're opening doors, you're doing all these things that you cannot close, and things are coming in and out that you cannot control. And now it is affecting your family, friends, and the entire city. And the craziest part about that is people think like the devil doesn't come to, to settle up. Well, this is harvest season. It is reap what you sow. And so a lot of people who were sowing a lot of commotion in the community right now, they are kind of getting their issues from the Lord and being revealed for who they are. So let me start with this, because this is a form of witchcraft that people don't necessarily pay attention to. Intimidation, domination, control. If you ever feel intimidated or manipulated to say something or do something that you would not ordinarily do, you're like, well, why did I do that? Why did I agree with that? Sometimes you agree to something in the moment, and then like you get back in the car, or you leave the meeting, or you leave the family's house. You're like, why did I agree to do that? I didn't even want to do that. That's manipulation. That's domination. That's control. That is witchcraft. So FYI, turn away, because you should never feel intimidated, dominated, or intimidated to do anything. That is not how the Lord works. So they're not working with this side. You know what side they're working with. So that is your takeaway from today. Do not be manipulated, and do not walk in fear. Those are fear is one of the biggest things that can allow things into your life, because when you know whose you are, like, whom shall I fear? Like, legit, I've dodged 40 bullets. Like, whom shall I fear? So you can't take me out if the Lord didn't say you can. So that's just what it is. So we're going to switch into our budget deficit update, We have these so recently because there's literally something changing each and every day with the city council, y'all. And I want to kind of bridge that to the spiritual side because, like I said, New Orleans is in the cleanse. And so what you see is our city officials being affected by this because our leadership that we chose were actually part of the group of administration that created the budget deficit. I mean, they can say what they want, but generally people don't want to take accountability for their own actions, especially in political levels. They'll never say it out loud, but how can you be in city government for 8 years and not know that we were in a budget deficit? And if you didn't know, that's even more problematic because how are you going to lead through ignorance? You need to have a tighter understanding of the ship. And so when you understand how the government works in New Orleans, which you can do from the book, you really understand why I'm saying the things that I'm saying, because I didn't realize how much oversight the city council has until I started doing the research for the book. And I grew up in politics and I was like, wait, what? They can investigate any department. They can call them to the table and request documents. The same way you see the Congress have all of these investigative hearings. Well, guess what? Our city council can do the same thing because they are based off of the same system of government. So we're going to get into a little bit of that in our Civics 101. So you want to stay tuned for that because I was like, what? Yes. So pay attention. So let me give you the budget deficit update real quick. So, and this happened on yesterday, November 19th. So New Orleans approves $125 million emergency payroll loan. So our neighbors will be paid, especially for the holidays. On November 19th, the New Orleans City Council approved terms for a $125 million emergency loan to ensure that city employees continue to be paid throughout the end of the year during an ongoing cash flow crisis. The loan will come from JP Morgan Chase at 3.5% interest rate, which is actually pretty low, which is lower than expected. The funds are expected to be available in the city's emergency payroll account by this Friday. They don't know what time, but it says the money's coming Friday. So in the short term, city officials were able to piece together enough cash to cover first responder payroll this week without using the rainy day fund, although it is unclear whether that fund will be needed for next week. So we'll see what the deal is. The city must repay. Now here's the clincher, y'all. The city must repay the $125 million by June 30th of next year, 2026. But plans to pay it back by the end of May. But they have plans to pay it back by the end of May. And so once the revenue from the property taxes begins arriving early next year, that's what they plan to do. So New Orleans is projected to spend $160 million more than it brings in 2025. We're not even talking about 2026 yet. We're just talking about making robbing Peter to pay Paul in 2025. So if you think about that, 2026 is already going to be in a deficit. Yep, you got that right. So the financial crisis will carry into future budgets. And that is very important to understand. Like, this is not ending right now. This is going to be years of this. Y-E-A-R-S, years. The financial crisis will carry into future budgets. The current administration proposed $200 million in cuts, and the incoming mayor-elect is expected to put forward an even more aggressive plan to address the deficit, loan repayment, and overdue vendor payment. So if you were watching the news today, it showed that the CFO was requesting that the city council approves money from the rainy day fund to pay the city vendors, because some haven't been paid since their September receipts. And so we're in November, right? So yeah. So the 2026 budget, don't forget, must be approved by December 1st. So we have a lot of stuff going on right there. So let me kind of touch a couple of those. New Orleans is projected to spend $160 million more than it brings in 2025, which is what happened. The city will have spent about $50 million in overtime this year. Much of it wasn't budgeted, and that was like between major events like the Super Bowl, which also did not generate enough revenue. So I'm giving those stats because that's what happened this year. like copy paste. You're going to need about $50 million in overtime for 2026. That needs to be budgeted. Because remember, they only budgeted $54,000. Blink, blink. Yes. Yes. Thank you. It is. We have a cycle of borrowing. And so that's really why they had so many people in New Orleans that were against Proposition 1. We do know that it did pass, and, the majority of the city voted for it, but I don't believe it was explained very well, because people thought they were voting against having getting money for affordable housing. That was not the case. We were voting on where the money was going to come from, whether we were going to take a loan or not. That's basically it. We were voting on if we were going to take a loan or not. And so New Orleans decided to take another loan. I had one of my listeners actually break it down. So I'm going to actually get with them, because they gave a very good breakdown of the New Orleans deficit and spending, and how much it was. And I don't want to give the numbers here because I don't want to be incorrect, but y'all, it was really mind-boggling. I was like, what? You can't just like keep going and asking for money, and we are, oh my gosh, I just can't even, when he explained it, he was really like, New Orleans has maxed out her credit card. And I was like, yeah, like that's exactly what happened. We have maxed out the credit card and we're still begging for money because we're not paying attention to what we're doing. So how does the city afford to do this and nobody like gets held responsible? But if we did that in our own individual households, they would come turn our lights off, turn whatever off. It would be done. We would not have these situations. So how is no one responsible? How do we as residents even not hold our elected officials accountable? Like, we keep electing them and don't say anything. Like, my issue is, during this past election, that was a perfect time to hold them accountable and even ask them questions. Because even if you wanted to vote for them, we should still know how you were going to handle the budget crisis. Well, nobody talked about it. We got this investigative report from the legislative auditor after the election. So we didn't even have a voice in it. Like, we didn't even know. They didn't even give us the information. But they have been knowing this has been going on for years. The CFO is like, we've been giving monthly reports. They've had meetings. They have, y'all, but speaking of that, if you do ever miss a city council meeting and you want to catch up, you can always watch them later on their YouTube channel, and that is at NOLA City Council, at NOLA City Council, and the city council website is council.nola.gov, council.nola.gov. So I want to make sure I give that out, because on their website, you can go to the bottom and you can subscribe. So you can subscribe to their emails. And you can choose which ones you want, what things you're interested in, and they will send you email updates on those things. So you don't have to go running for stuff. We know a lot of people are busy and they day-to-days, you may be listening to me on your ride home from work, but I want to make sure you know where you can get information that if you're interested in it, and hopefully you are. I ask you to choose the topic that's in your sphere of influence and speak up. I only know what I know, but we need people in finance, we need people in education, we need people in housing, we need people in all of these areas to be speaking up, to be letting us know what's going on step by step, so that we can be a stronger New Orleans. Oh, and I want to throw this out there too. After kind of watching the election, New Orleans natives. And so if you're not a New Orleans native, I love you. I'm going to consider you a newbie, because I'm not, people call people different things. I'll just call you a newbie. But New Orleans natives, we have got to vote. We are being drowned out in our own city. New Orleans natives must show up at the polls. I do not know how to say it ever more clearly. New Orleans natives need to show up at the polls. New Orleans natives need to show up at the polls. New Orleans natives need to show up at the polls. Like, we can't complain about what's going on in the city and not show up at the polls. It is a deafening change in the city of New Orleans over these past years, because we have not had native leadership who understand some basic pre-Katrina things. Like, they just don't understand. You cannot pull a creative idea out of nowhere because you've never experienced it. So while we appreciate our elected officials who have been here, if you aren't from here, you just don't know. And so we have a lot of people who just don't know, but we're not showing up to the levels that we need to make sure our voices are heard. And so that was one of the things I said on the campaign trail. It was very evident in a lot of these past two elections. And so we must get in the game as New Orleanians, and or the city that you know and love is not going to look the same in a couple years. We have had 8 years of a non-New Orleanian lead the city. We currently signed up for 4 more. So that's 12. So if you have a 12-year-old, a 12-year-old child or an 8-year-old child now, by the time they're 12, they will have never seen a New Orleanian that has been a mayor. They will never see a native New Orleanian as mayor of this city. We are internationally known for some things. That is craziness. Like, really let that settle. Our children do not know what a New Orleanian leading the city looks like. So what is 8th grade? I mean, what is 8 years old? Like 3rd grade? So our 3rd graders on down do not know what our city looks like to have a native New Orleanian run the city. That's craziness. And we need to think about that and the importance of it and how that affects the city, because it really does. You can just see the changes on Claiborne Avenue. Drive down Claiborne Avenue and see the difference. And that's all I'm going to say, because if I say too much, I might go, so I'm not going to do that. So we are going to jump into Civics 101, because this is part of my favorite part. This is from the book Faith and Politics. And again, you can get the book on Amazon, or you can get the book from me. I do have meetups throughout the city. I'll post up at a to-be-determined location, and I'll stay there throughout the day, and I will set up times to meet residents, give your book, chat about New Orleans politics, or anything you're going through spiritually. I'm here for that too. So whatever you want to talk about, I'm here, and you can order the book from me. You can do it at Cash App, Faith in Politics, or you can order it from Amazon. So we're going to jump into the book. And actually today, y'all, I'm just going to do page 1. I know if you missed last week's show, or Tuesday's show, I should say, we broke down the 3 levels of government. You will see some posts coming about that soon, so you can follow along. But I wanted to kind of start at the basics, because this is episode 37, and we're talking about foundation. So let's talk about the foundation of New Orleans. So make sure you get the book. We're on page 1, just to give a breakdown of it. Because if we don't know where we came from or how we were created, then how can we build, right? That's just kind of how I'm seeing it. So let me get the breakdown. So do y'all know how New Orleans was created? Well, I don't want to give you that information yet. Do y'all know how New Orleans was created? Do you? Well, we were created by the city charter. And you'll hear a lot of our politicians talk about the charter. That is the legal document that we need to follow to make sure everything flows correctly. So it says the mayor, these are your responsibilities. The city council, these are your responsibilities. And it gives a little bit of the judicial system, but if you read the book or understand the charter, you will know that our judicial system is not under city guidance. Our judicial system is under the state of Louisiana. So that's why with issues with the DA or issues with the sheriff, you see the state coming in and giving their 2 cents and saying whatever they need to say. Well, that's because the judicial system is under the state of Louisiana. The judicial system is not under the city of New Orleans. And so that's why it's so important to understand who does what, so we know where to guide our focus, complaints, or solutions, so that we can all be stronger together. So, understanding New Orleans government structure. New Orleans operates under unique mayor-council system modeled after the structure of the United States government, with 3 branches: executive, legislative, and judicial. These branches work together to ensure accountability, balance of power, and effective governance. Now, let me give you an example, because you think everybody is set up like the same way with the 3 branches. Everybody is not set up the same way. And I can give you, our neighbors are a great example of that. Jefferson Parish. Jefferson Parish does not have a mayor. Have you ever wondered why? Because they have a different form of government. We have a mayor, council, strong form of government. They do not have that. Even Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge does not have a strong mayor form of government. The mayor actually sits as the president of the council. So they have a different type of government too. So Baton Rouge's government, New Orleans government, and Jefferson Parish government all have 3 different systems. And so if you wonder, why are they titled that way? Or why doesn't Jefferson Parish have a mayor? Because we do not have the same system of government. And so that's a wake-up call for a lot of people, because they're like, oh, I never thought about it. Well, you should think about it so you can know who does what and who's responsible for what, so that we can be stronger. And share the information with your kids, because they shouldn't have to wait till they're 30 or 20 or 30 years old to figure this out and find out. So the Home Rule Charter. The Home Rule Charter is the foundation of modern government, of our modern government in New Orleans. So now you got the reason why episode 37 is foundation. So New Orleans' system of government is anchored in the Home Rule Charter, which provides the city with the authority to self-govern within the limits of Louisiana Constitution, and outlines responsibilities and powers across all branches. So that's also important to know as well, that we can create our own laws, but they cannot go against the laws of the state of Louisiana. Let me repeat that. New Orleans can create their own laws, but the laws cannot conflict with the state of Louisiana. So let me give you an example of how we can be self-governing outside the state. So I was the social media manager during COVID. Fun, but I was. And the reason why New Orleans could set different standards is because we had our own self-governing health department. And we are Orleans Parish. So that's why it only affected New Orleans. You had other parishes around the state that had to follow the guidelines of the state of Louisiana. But New Orleans did not have to, because we have our own health department, our own agency, which makes us very unique compared to the rest of the state. So that is another thing that you didn't know, but now you know. But I learned that, it's one of those things I learned while working through government, that New Orleans has its own health department. And when you read the charter, you understand that as well. And so that is all in the book. We're not getting to that part. That was just kind of laying you out while I was at it. But that's why the city of New Orleans was able to have its own guidelines throughout COVID. It's because we do have our own health department, which is created in our city charter. So the history of the Home Rule Charter for New Orleans. It was adopted on January 1st, 1954. So if you think about that, that isn't that long ago. It's not even 100 years. So we have only been in this form of government that we have right now since 1954. Have you thought about what it was before that? That's New Orleans trivia, so I'm going to save that for later. But we have only been under this chartered system since 1954. It was drafted by a charter committee established in 1954. The purpose of the reform was replace the outdated 1912 form of government. The new structure created a mayor-council government with 7 council members, 2 at-large representatives, and 5 district representatives. So that is the current status. The city of New Orleans still operates under the 1954 charter with amendments that are made over time. So when they're saying this is a charter amendment that they have to put on the ballot, they have to come to the residents of New Orleans, and we have to vote if you want to change something in the charter. And that's what they recently just had stuff on the ballot. So that's what you did. We changed things in the city charter by amendment, by our vote. So that's important to understand how the charter was set up, how it gets changed, and things of that sort. So we really need to understand how it works. So what we created in that 1954 charter was a strong mayor system. And like I said before, there are different forms of government, but New Orleans has a strong mayor system. So the Home Rule Charter established a strong mayor model, giving the mayor broad authority over administration, budgeting, and city operations, while the city council, y'all, this is the same word I use all the time that they run away from. The city council provides oversight, accountability to maintain transparency. And our city council is also over our utilities. So let me say that again, because a lot of people, the city council members do not, I don't know if they didn't read this part of the charter or they just don't want to be held accountable for like their piece of it, but it's like three three stages of government, right? Executive, legislative, and judicial. Like, this is your lane. Like, take up your lane. They have not been taking up their lane, which is why we're in the situation that we're in. They have had weak oversight, and that's kind of the conversation that was had at the state. And if you listen to Baton Rouge media and you listen to New Orleans media, you could have the same. It could be the same report, and you will get two different perspectives. It's nuts, because I find Baton Rouge, especially when they're talking about state matters, are much more neutral, and New Orleans is very biased. If you just listen to us, you think our elected leaders are just holier than thou and they do no wrong. I'm like, y'all have lost your mind. Please be honest with the residents and do not gaslight us. So I encourage you to get your information from more than one source. I encourage you to listen to Baton Rouge News as well, especially on city matters. When our city leaders go to Baton Rouge, I believe you should listen to Baton Rouge News and see how they report on New Orleans. It's a very different take, which will give you a different perspective, and it will definitely open your mind. Because when I started listening to it, I was like, oh, for shame. Then I was like, well, wait, they are wrong. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. The city council provides oversight and accountability to maintain transparency. And unfortunately, they have not been doing that. So we find ourselves in a situation where our new elected officials, a handful of them, were there during the budget deficit being created, and are now the group that are going to have to be digging us out of this hole. And so we wish all of them the best, because we want the best for New Orleans and our natives. I'm not a hater. I'm just delivering the news. It is what it is. And the truth is the truth. The truth is you were there when it was created. And you can't act like you weren't. And so, of course, we want New Orleans to be successful, but we need to be honest with where we are, and that this budget deficit is not going away anytime soon. It is a years-long process to dig us out. Like, I guess the best example is, like, say you had something hit your credit in a bad way, and it took you time to build your credit back up. Well, that's what New Orleans has to do. We have to build it back up. And so it's not going to be an easy road. And it's going to be tough for a lot of people. So it is what it is. And we need to really be more understanding with each other. And it's going to take the neighborhoods and the organizations pulling together and to help each other out, because we're going to need it. And so that's why the spirituals, I really am so driven to do this spiritual takeover, and to just work with different community organizations so that we can build a better New Orleans in any way that I can do it, and bring a little bit more unity to our city, because I believe that's what we've been missing. I grew up and we were a family of neighborhoods. Clearly, I'm pre-Katrina, and I think we forgot a lot of that. When we came back, they had our 20 and 30-year-olds, don't even remember pre-Katrina. And so there's so many things that were foundational to New Orleans. Speaking of episode 37, foundation, there were so many things that are foundational to New Orleans that I just think are missing, and we need to bring them back. I mean, one example is our MLK parades. My dad was less than official. We did the MLK parades in March. More specifically, we did the march every year. But I do believe we need to also educate our community on those leaders of that time that really broke through a lot of ceilings for us. Because when you know what you came from, where you came from, you can kind of work through where you are and move forward. I do not, and kind of pick up the torch and move it on. I believe a lot of them dropped the baton, and we need to pick up the baton. And so if we don't even know what batons were dropped, like, what are we going to do? Exactly, one step at a time, literally one step at a time. And so I'm encouraging each and every New Orleanian, and I say that as, we love our newbies, but I'm saying New Orleanians. I am asking all of our New Orleanians to get involved. I am asking all of our New Orleanians to get involved. We need your voices. We need your history. We need your understanding of the city, and we need your perspective, because it's very important as we move forward in these years, especially having another administration who, is not from New Orleans. There are just things you just don't know because you're not from here. So I believe New Orleanians really need to be a voice. I encourage you to get on different committees and boards. You'll see a lot of change right now in the city of New Orleans. The mayor-elect is looking for a lot of new positions. A lot of the directors are going to be leaving. And so if you're interested in being a part of New Orleans, in a different way. Now's the time. It will be a stressful time because the finances will be tight. So just know that. But if it is your sphere of influence, go and do your thing so that Native New Orleans and Native voices can be heard, because I absolutely believe it's necessary. And if you're a believer, we need you there too, because we need to let our take over the atmosphere everywhere we go and make sure we have a little peace in the city. So last but not least today, and like I said, I was going to take some resident questions. So I'm going to leave a couple minutes at the end to see if y'all have any questions for me, and then we can just chat it out to the end. But my trivia question for today, y'all are going to love this. Okay, well, I love this. And so I figured you may love this because it goes to what we were talking about earlier with the city charter. So my question is for New Orleans trivia, dun, 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 and this was not in any of the posts. So this will be a post after. I didn't do it on purpose because I thought just with what the conversation was, it would flow anyway. So what type of government was New Orleans before 1954? New Orleans trivia today. What form of government was New Orleans before 1954? So if you remember, in 1954, we had our homeroom charter. That's when it was adopted. And so we got the new system of one mayor and 7 council members, 5 for every district, and then 2 at-large positions. So that was created in 1954. So when you think about it, it really wasn't that long ago. So what type of system did we have before 1954? So I'm going to tell you that and give you a lot of New Orleans history that I just think is fun, because a lot of these things we don't even know about New Orleans. And I'm a native, and so I figured, if I don't know it, then somebody else doesn't know it either. And so it'll just be fun to delve into and know the history of New Orleans, because when we know what our foundations are, we can build a better and stronger New Orleans together. So here's the answer, y'all. Before New Orleans' 1954 Home Rule Charter, the city was under a commission form of government created by the 1912 Charter. Yes, 1912. So the commission form, which began in 1912, featured a mayor and 4 commissioners who were all elected at large and oversaw different city departments. So that's kind of interesting. So they had more direct control that way. Interesting. So from 1912 to 1954, there was a commission form of government. The 1912 charter established a commission form of government with a mayor and 4 commissioners elected to 4-year terms. And prior to 1912, see y'all, I'm giving it all to you. New Orleans had gone through several different forms of government, including a bicameral council Prior to 1912, New Orleans had gone through several forms of government, including a bicameral council form from 1852 to 1870, in a period where the city was divided into 3 different municipalities from 1836 to 1852. And before that, the city, guess what the city had? A mayor-council government established by the 1805 charter. Say what? So yes, I'm going to give that to you again because it's funny. So we are actually in the second go round of New Orleans having a mayor-council form of government. The first time we heard this mayor-council form of government was in 1805. Who knew? So, before New Orleans' 1954 Home Rule Charter, the city was under a commission form of government created by the 1912 Charter. This commission form, which began in 1912, featured a mayor and 4 commissioners who were all elected at large and oversaw different city departments. From 1912 to 1954, the charter established a commission form of government with a mayor and 4 commissioners elected to 4-year terms. And prior to 1912, New Orleans had gone through several different forms of government, including a bicameral council from 1852 to 1870, in a period where the city was divided, did y'all know that, into 3 municipalities from 1836 to 1852. And before that, the city had a mayor-council government established by the 1805 charter. So that is a little bit of New Orleans trivia. Did you know? And that answers the question of what type of government did New Orleans have before 1954? So I gave you the different forms of government that New Orleans had from 1805 to 1954. So there were 3 different types since then. And so this is a second go round of us having the mayor council form of government. So I always thought that was kind of fun because who knew? And so we can actually change the type of government. And so you've heard a couple people in the city have rumblings about that, how they wanted to have a city manager as well as the mayor and things of that sort. So there are different ways to manage the government. And so just let your ears open, because a lot of people have been talking about different ways because they feel like what we currently have is not working. So but I do believe if our elected officials worked the job responsibilities that they had per the city charter, we would see a lot more efficiency in city government. But unfortunately, that's not happening. And again, you can get all of that type of information right here in my book, Faith in Politics. The PDF is free. You can go to my IG and the links. You can hit the PDF for free. Literally, it'll say PDF free, and you can get the book for free. But of course, you can purchase it for $15 on Cash App, $15 on Cash App at Faith in Politics, or you can purchase it on Amazon. So you can do all of those ways. So did anybody have any questions? You're wowing. I know you didn't know all that. Isn't that kind of interesting information? I talked to a lot of the listeners online and in DMs and stuff. And so it's fun to really kind of delve into some New Orleans information that, I know I didn't know. And this is kind of stuff that they never teach you in school. Just like who was the first mayor of the city of New Orleans? Like, oh, y'all, I got to go back and find that because I don't even remember the man's name. See, I don't even remember the man's name, but I'm going to give it to you. Look. I'm going to go give it to you because that was 2 episodes ago. So I do want to remind you that if you ever missed an episode, you can always follow me on everywhere that you podcast and catch up. And so you can follow me on Apple, YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Music, Podbean, Player FM, Listen Notes, Podchaser, and Boomplay. Again, that is Apple, YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Music, Podbean, Player FM, Listen Notes, Podchaser, and Boomplay. And so right after I get off live, they will upload onto all of those platforms. So episode 37 will be available there. They usually pop up right about 10 minutes after the live ends. And so you can listen anywhere you are. So if you also miss it here and you're like, oh, it's been so long, then you can go find it on Apple or Spotify or iHeart or any of those places as well. Because we got to make sure that y'all can get the information. It's important. And then share it with your family and friends. It's important as well because we really need to make sure we're showing up at the polls. So who was the first mayor of the city of New Orleans? He was, you got the little music too. It was Etienne de Boré. I didn't want to pronounce his name wrong, so I was like, let me go look. Etienne de Boré was the first mayor of New Orleans. So that was on our show on November 11th. So you can go check out that there to see everything else. But who was the first mayor of New Orleans? I'm just giving you a fun one again. Etienne de Boré, he was born in 1741. He died in 1820. He was a pivotal figure in early Louisiana history, best known as the first mayor of New Orleans under U.S. rule. So that's important too, because we went under French rules, Spanish rule, the United States rule. He was the first mayor under United States rule. So that's important because he became the mayor after the Louisiana Purchase. So that's also, they'd be like, no, he wasn't there at all. No, he was the first U.S. mayor. So he's considered the first U.S. mayor of New Orleans under the U.S. administration that was right after the Louisiana Purchase. So here's a little fun fact about him. I'm not going to go through all of it, but I thought this was fun when I was reading about him. He successfully produced granulated sugar from cane at his plantation. Guess where his plantation was, y'all? Uptown New Orleans. Yep, his sugar plantation was uptown New Orleans, and so his former plantation later became part of Audubon Park. Isn't that fun? The random information. So next time you're walking in Audubon Park, you could be like, this was part of a sugar plantation. Sure was of the first mayor of the city of New Orleans, Etienne de. So that's all I got here. I do want to answer any questions. Y'all have any questions? Hey, y'all. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Do I sign the book? Yes, I will sign the book 100%. Autograph the book. We can have conversation about politics, have spiritual conversation that always pops up as well, because we really do live in a spiritual world, and we just need to make sure that we're protected. And so, I do. We'll have conversation about that as well. And so if people do not know, I do walk with the Lord. I walk in the fivefold. I have an apostolic walk. And so if you know anything about that type of walk, which a lot of people don't, because I didn't, until the Lord started like tapping me on my shoulder. He's like, hey, I need you to do something. Well, when I started to learn what characteristics and thing that they do is they build. And so it's crazy because I can look back at my like work history and see how I was always building things. Let me give you an example. So I worked for HRI, and at that time I was working at American Can. And so I started at American Can when they opened. I was literally the first resident of American Can. So that's a little fun random fact, but I was the first resident of American Can, and I was over their compliance. So I built the system to handle the compliance for American Can. And why that was so important is because if you messed up on compliance, it was like a long story short, y'all, it's with the low to moderate income program. And so if you messed up on and it was a 15-year program. So if you messed up like on year 1 or year 2, they could come do an audit of you and say it was year 14. Well, then you'd have to start back at that unit at year 1. And so you could not be messing up. It was just not okay. And so I was able to help build that system over there. And so, and grow with them. And they saw that I had done, they thought I did a great job. Well, now I thought so too. When they opened River Garden, they asked me to go over there, and shout out to Ron Baptiste, because he was pulled over there to do it. He was over RT at the time. He's not over there anymore. But he pulled me over there with him, and I handled the lease up and the compliance portion of the River Garden. So if you go back and look at their initial residents who moved in on their compliance paperwork, you'll see Eileen Carter, you see my name, you'll see my signatures all over them. So that's another little fun random fact. And then, of course, I went to, I was at Louisiana Minority Supplier Development Council. It is currently the regional Supplier Development Council. But when I went there, I worked in a grant program that did outreach for small businesses, and it matched their small businesses to the corporate community. And when I was there, I built their outreach. And so I was like, well, can I do this? Because outreach has always kind of been my thing. And so I started their newsletter and their outreach when I was over there. And then I started my own business, and I built that, Carter Business Development. And so while I was there, while I was doing that, I found, I had someone at WBOK that was like, you know what, I think you'd be great on radio. And so I built a radio show for 4 years there. And when they had a change of management, I left there and I went to build the social media department of the city of New Orleans. And so then, y'all may know me from these other things, but, we built the recall outreach. And then we built, the campaign. I'd never done that by myself, clearly, but it was definitely an education. I grew up in politics, but I never had to, do a campaign in the way that I recently had to do it. So it was definitely an education on the intricacies of campaign life, as well as the information that residents know and don't know, as well as the gatekeeping in New Orleans. Y'all, that was probably one of the biggest things that was a surprise. I knew it existed, but the levels of gatekeeping in New Orleans is really saddening. I believe there's a lot of people who like to keep New Orleans ignorant. New Orleanians ignorant of information, and they they gaslight us. They 100% gaslight. People get mad when I say that. I'm like, why? It's the truth. We are gaslit, and it doesn't just stop at the politicians, because the politicians are friends with the media, and so the media is not going to say anything bad about their friends, because they want to still get the first scoop or the first interview or things like that. And so, if you want to be in with them, then you better deliver good media pieces. And so it's just and newspaper articles. So, and we don't really have, a vast amount of information sources. So it's really like a terrible gatekeeping circle. And even with the organizations and our larger business organizations, you just have people who will not speak up for, I don't want to say natives because I don't want to say it like that, but I say people who aren't in their sphere of influence. I'll say that, or in their sphere. I'm not even going to say their sphere of influence. People who aren't in their sphere. I do believe it's not always intentional. When you live in your bubble, you just don't necessarily think about certain things. But I believe that's the problem. You do not think about certain things. And so they need to cast a larger net to inform the city in better ways about what is going on. And I mean everyone in the city. I don't just mean like you sent out an email the day before and the 4 people who show up are the people who get the information, because it's ridiculous. On a basic, everybody in the city of New Orleans does not have an email. And so the information for the city of New Orleans is sent by email. So how are people going to get it if they don't even have an email? And they don't even know that they need to sign up for the email to get it. So the information sharing in New Orleans is subpar. I know it firsthand because, as I said, I built the social media department in the city of New Orleans from 2018 to 2021. And that was my biggest thing. I was like, people don't know stuff. Like, how do you get information out? Another short example there is when I started with the city of New Orleans, y'all know how y'all get those alerts and stuff. Well, when I started there, it was about they had about 30,000 people signed up for it. When I left, it was almost 100,000 people signed up for the alerts. And I believe we had done a really great job. You do not get the alerts the same way that you did from 2018 to 21. I have a lot of people like, we don't get the same amount of information. I'm gone. And Laura is gone. Laura, shout out to Laura. She heads emergency management system in Minnesota. So shout out to her. They got an incredible person up there. And then I left. So you had 2 people with, and Laura was through Homeland Security. And so you got 2 people who knew a lot of information that basically left at the same time. So it was just a void of information. And that's a really big problem for the city of New Orleans, in my opinion. They're losing a lot of good people because, well, yeah. Well, let me point it redirected somewhere else, because in 2021, during the recall, we spoke up and we said there's a lot of retaliation at City Hall. And nobody believed us. Well, what are you talking about? Like, they retaliate at City Hall if you speak up, if you say something. And I don't just mean anybody, the mayor on down. That was my 2 cents. And you see that actually on the news now, or recently. I think Cassie Sharma of Channel 6 was doing an investigative report about DPW, and the DPW employees actually went and sat in front of city council and said, hey, we're being retaliated against. It's like terrible over here. And so it's just saddening for me, for our employees and our neighbors, our friends and family, because, they work for the city, and that it took this long just to get some type of relief. They've been saying this for years. We knew it since 2022. That's when we got to the point where we're saying it out loud. So what's happening behind the scenes. So we're in 2025. So what do you think has been happening? These people have been working in just treacherous emotional and psychological conditions because they've been trying to get them fired. And these people have families and things and responsibilities that they need to take care of. They just don't want to work in an environment that is like, one man was like, it's like hell. He's like, it's like prison. He's like, it's like prison working here. And that should just not be the case for anybody. But we do know that it reflects, in my opinion, and from my firsthand experience, it reflects on the leadership on down, and the way that the mayor leads is the way that her department heads lead. And so retaliatory practices and just not listening and following up to things like that, unfortunately, have been very rampant at this administration. People are like, oh, she's mean. She's talking about a Black woman. I'm like, I'm a Black woman too. Like, I'm standing up for the other Black women that work there. So that's just craziness to me. And I'm not partial about anybody who works there. I don't care who you are or what color you are, purple, green, gold. I do not care. Are you being a good representative for the people? Because that's what we hired you for. And if you're not being a good representative for the people, then I'm going to say something. Because if we don't say anything, then who's going to say something? Nobody's going to hold them accountable. I do believe that because I grew up in politics, and I know a lot of them personally, it is a little bit easier for me to do so. And so if that is the case, then I'm going to do it for my people. It is what it it is. And I don't care what you say. I really don't. Your opinion does not matter as long as it gets results for the people. It is what it is. I've been lied on. I've been called all kind of stuff. Let me be clear. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Like, I legit do not care. One of the things that prepared me for that was being the social media manager for the city of New Orleans. Again, I had incoming from all over the world. So I was the voice of the mayor from 2018 to 2021. That was like during Hard Rock, during COVID, during the Trump years. We were a Democratic mayor during the Trump years, exactly the first Trump years. So it's probably a little bit different now, but the first Trump years, like it was awful. And so I had all of the incoming. The mayor did not have Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter on her phone. So I was the one that you were talking to and responding to. So of course I can't respond any kind of way I want. I can't respond, in a negative light. I'm representing the mayor. I'm her voice. And so being able to take incoming and let it roll off has become a great skill of mine. And I really don't care. And then especially with my walk with the Lord, like opinions don't matter. Especially if, number one, the Lord has guided me. I will humble myself to the Lord anytime, but an opinion from especially a non-believer, like if your suggestion or information isn't offered with the humility of the Lord, then where are we going? Because a lot of times it's just, a demonic spirit trying to attack me, and I peek back too. And so, like I said, we do live in a spiritual city. Witchcraft is real, and the witches really do try to do stuff. And so it's just funny because I'm covered in the blood. I have zero fear. I do not care. Anything you try to do is really just going to mess up your life. And so I just have hope, grace, and mercy on you when it bounces, when you feel the retaliation of what you created for yourself, because I wish nothing on you but blessings. I want everyone to, understand the joys and peace that I have found in the Lord, and just be a stronger city for it, and a more united city, because aren't y'all tired of being known for witchcraft? Like, is that what we really want to be known for? Like, internationally? Like, people come here from all over the world for that. Like, I would much rather be known for like our music and our food, which we are, of course, but there's a whole nother segment of people who do come here just for that. And so it's sad. They think that they're talking to their ancestors. I'm like, not. You're talking to a demon. You're talking to a demon. Oh, my ancestors is that? No, you're talking to a demon. They may have given a front or bewitched you or whatever, and I'm sorry that you got the okie doke, but you're talking to a demon. I mean, that just is what it is. And, most people don't like to hear that. They're like, you don't know they got black magic, white magic. It's all demonic. I don't care if you think it's good, and I only do good stuff. You're entering the spiritual realm illegally. Period. Like, 2 teams. You're saying you do it, so you're on this team. They're like varying levels of a team. It's like saying, okay, I'm a Democrat, right? Well, you have moderate Democrats, and then you have very liberal Democrats. There's a range of it. You're still a Democrat, right? Okay, so, I'm a good witch. I'm a bad witch. You're still a witch. Like, it still is what it is. You're still a warlock. You still dabble in witchcraft, which is totally against the word in the Bible. Yeah, I always got one close. Don't ever be confused about that either. But, we need to understand what city that we live in, because the spiritual realm is real, and Jesus is realer. And so that's what time it is. It is harvest season. And so I do want to explain that too as well before I hop off here. People are like, what is all the confusion and all the arguing going online? You've seen people argue that you never would have seen before. The Lord is revealing certain people, and people that you thought were totally one way and are totally not. People you would have thought have been advocates, and they do all these great things, but how did they get their rise? What did they do to get their rise? Is it on a foundation of the Lord that he gave them the giftings, or the devil gave them the giftings? There's only 2 ways to get a gift. Either God gives you a gift or the devil gives you a gift. Period. There's only 2 ways to get a gift. So if you based your growth off of gifts from the devil, he's coming to reap. He's coming to reap. Right now, it's reaping season. And so people are popping off and all this other stuff and whatever. And a lot of times they're attacking children of God. And God's like, hold up, bet. He's like, I'm not playing this in this season. And they're seeing calamity after calamity after calamity after calamity. So if you see an influencer who is manipulative, intimidating, or dominating, you should beware. That is 100% not somebody you should be following. And I'm going to repeat that. If there's an influencer, in the city of New Orleans that is manipulating, dominating, controlling, and intimidating, you should not follow them at all. 100%, you should not follow them. Why? Because that is witchcraft. Read your Bible. A lot of people don't read their Bible. They don't think about that. And because you know what? A lot of times it's in their family too. Yes. When the Lord comes back, it is not just to, kumbaya and hug. The Lord is separating us, the wheat from the tare. Y'all know the story about the 10 virgins. 5 were prepared and the other 5 weren't. They got shut out of the feast. Separation. The Lord separates the sheep and the goat. Y'all are like, that's what's happening now. That's why you see all of these separations. That's why you see all these arguments. So my best advice right now is to let it go. Let it go, let it go, let it go. And I'm not immune to this either. There are family members that I just, prayed for, and I was just like, Lord, but you can't make somebody do what they don't want to do. And if they don't see the light, it is what it is. I ask you, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine and keep moving forward. Because if you connect yourself with them, it's like holding on to the rose and it being pulled down your hand, and the thorns are like, making your hand all bloody. It's not going to change the situation. You're just going to get beat up. So I offer you this to, step aside and to let go and let God do it, because he knows what he's doing and he knows what it takes to get that person to turn to him much more than you do. A lot of time we lean on our own understanding, and God said, wait up, do not do that. He knows everything. He sees everything, and he knows. And so he knows better than us. He knows what's best for us, and he knows what's best for them. So let go, let God, and just get some order in your foundation, because that's what you really need right now. Because, and I'll say this as the last thing before I go, because I didn't know how this was going to happen, and I don't necessarily know what it is, but there are going to be some large shakings coming. What they are, I do not know. It was a prophetic word the Lord gave me, and he said, it's coming. And I was like, and so when he says stuff like that, it's not really a good thing. But he said, it's coming. And I was like, oh, snap. So my 2 cents to every believer, and my 2 cents for everyone who is a Christian: if you say you're a Christian, then you need to be about your Christianity. This is not a time to play with it. If you say you're a Christian, be a Christian. If you say you're a Christian, be a Christian. Do not be lukewarm about it. It is not a time. Stand 10 toes down in your faith. Read your Bible, because a lot of stuff you've been taught you think is in there, and it's not. And a lot of things that are in there that you're like, oh, and it's crazy. Even like the golden rule. Y'all, the golden rule is in the Bible. Like, there's like a lot of these self-help books that have all of these great, these steps. They're biblical principles, and that's why they work, because the Lord's word doesn't lie. A lot of these self-help books are biblical principles. And that's why it's so funny, because I'm like, oh, y'all been lying on the Lord? Like, God said this. And so when we understand who we are and whose we are, we can be a stronger community of believers. But right now, we really need a stronger community in New Orleans, because it is up for the witches. The Lord is here. So it is what it is. Their powers are not working the way that it used to work. They're looking for sacrifices. They're looking for people. They're looking to like leech off of you. And people like, they're energy vampires. That's how people, you ever like have a situation where you're all happy, and then, or you just feel like you're full of energy or whatever, and then you're around somebody, and when you leave, you just feel depleted and whatever. Well, long story short, what happened is they stole your virtue, and that's spiritually speaking. Because so many people don't want to have the conversation that Jesus is supernatural. And I said that at the beginning, but Jesus is supernatural. We look for the palm readers and all this stuff to go figure out something. Well, guess what? The Holy Spirit will tell you, if you just tap in the correct way. There's a way to do it. You tap in with Jesus. Most people just don't want to do the work. You want to illegally go get it from somebody else. Oh, you go do it. No, God said, come to me. And, he's out there pulling in all the prodigals. He loves each and every one of us, but we have free will. And so if you choose, he's not going to force you. He's a loving God. He's not going to force you. So I just encourage everybody to choose Jesus, because I know he is always there. He's not going to leave you. He is the bestie you will ever have. and he will not guide you wrong. He literally wants the best for you and will make sure you and your family are always taken care of, because he is there when we are not, right? And so, yeah, he is there when we are not. So again, today's show was Foundation, episode 37. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. We talked about the spiritual takeover, take back the block. And I do want to, and I think I said this earlier, but I'm just going to say it again. I want to partner with some sponsors. So I'm going to be looking for some sponsors because I want to do like yard signs. We have yard signs for everybody else, but like spiritually, like we've walked this block, or, spiritual takeover or whatever it's going to say. I don't know, but something that, we'll bless the signs or pray over the signs and then put them in our neighborhoods to kind of leave, just leave I don't know, just an item to let them know that we were here. And like, we took this block and like, it is what it is. Like, the blood of Jesus is on this block. So play with us if you want to. We really need to stand in our authority because we have it. And if we don't speak it, it's not going to happen. The Lord gave us dominion. I think that was one of the most, not surprising things, but one of the more impactful things when I started to read the Bible. I was like, wait, we have the power. And when you start reading the Bible, and especially the New Testament, well, in the New Testament, when they say letters to the Romans or letters to the Ephesians or letters to whatever, Paul is writing these letters and he says, to the saints of this city, to the saints of this city. And I'm like, the saints? He's talking to people who are alive. The saints aren't dead. Stop praying to dead people. It's necromancy. Y'all, we can have a whole nother show about that if we want. But that's not where we're in today. But they're just things that we've been given the okie doke and we've been lied to for so long that we think is normal. Remember, the Bible says you're going to think good is evil and evil is good. Well, it's so true. We have grown up thinking these things were normal, and they are not normal, like at all. 100% not normal. So we need to check ourselves, get back in God's order, and your life is just going to flow so much easier. So here's one of the things I suggest for you before I log off. One of the things I pray every day is, Lord, please align my day with you, align my thoughts, my heart, and my steps to your will, in Jesus' name. And so I offer that little prayer to you. And of course, I anoint myself, I plead the blood of Jesus, and I pray Psalm 91 for protection and put on the full armor of God for myself and my bloodline. So don't play with any of us, because you mess with us, you will meet Jesus 100%. I'm not going to give you specific examples now, but trust me, not the one to play with, anyone who walks with God, because his chosen, he takes care of them. And it's not something that we have to do. So I will never wish anything ill on anyone, but I will deliver a demon if they need to. I will take you out. So again, this is Eileen Carter with Faith in Politics. You can find me here Tuesdays and Thursdays at 6 p.m. Instagram, Facebook, well, not Facebook. Where did I get that from? Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and of course, Podbean. And then you can always catch me, like I said, on Apple, iHeart, Spotify. Let me give you the rest of them. I'm listening. You can always listen anytime at Apple, YouTube, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Music, Podbean, Player FM, Listen Notes, Podchaser, and Boom Play. And if you missed any of the episode today, which is episode 37, Foundation, you can go listen back. We talked about the spiritual takeover, the budget deficit. There was a meeting on yesterday where the $125 loan was approved, and they gave the outline of it, of the terms. And then we had a Civics 101 of how the New Orleans government was created. And that was by the Home Rule Charter, which was established in 1954. And we have a strong mayor system in the city of New Orleans. And of course, we had our New Orleans trivia, which was what type of government was New Orleans before 1954. And that was a commission form of government. And so we went through the forms of government from the 1800s all the way to today. So I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope you learned something and you share it with your family and friends. So thanks so much for tuning in, y'all. And I'm out. All right, YouTube, thanks so much for hanging tight with me. I love each and every one of you, and I speak to y'all soon. Bye. And of course, for all of my Podbean listeners, thanks so much for tuning in today. I love each and every one of you, and I hope you all have a blessed evening, and I will see you all next Tuesday.